you got to realize you have 30 opportunities to take advantage of the other team in this. And so I sell that really hard. And sometimes it's 20. Sometimes I think there was one game this year we had 22 special teams plays. That was
really,
you got 30 opportunities. That's it. So what are we going to do in those 30 opportunities to make an impact? Play that complementary football, set up our offense with great field position, set up the defense with great field position, and then, get that buy-in from the whole team. So.
Welcome. My name is Mike Lacey, and we're here with Kelly Popinga, the defensive ends and special teams coach for BYU. I've been very anxious to meet Kelly and to talk with him because he and the rest of the staff and the team are doing some things that I think are fantastic, leadership-wise, unity-wise, and as far as building this brand of BYU football. So welcome, Kelly Popinga. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Appreciate the time to be with you.
How did you get the name K-Pop or no, Coach Pop?
Well, so there's a teammate I had back in the day. So a guy named Gary Lovely. A lot of people might not remember that name, but he was kind of a special teams guy, played outside backer, D end. Gary Lovely. So this is 2005, 2006, somewhere around there.
You're young.
Yeah. So he walked in one day and he said, "Hey, have you had your daily dose?" And I said, "My daily dose of what?" He goes, "Your daily dose of K-pop." And I said, "All right, man, let's go." And then from there on out, everybody's heard K-pop. And that's been the name the nickname I had. And then so when I left here as a coach, when I left to go to Virginia with Bronco, the K-pop name kind of dropped and the players there started calling me Coach Pop.
Really?
And then that's what people called me at Boise State. And then I would say more people are probably calling me that now than the K-pop is probably kind of like the player nickname. Kalani still calls me that a lot, some other coaches, but I'd say the majority are going to the Coach Pop now. So either one, whatever. I don't care. Just don't call me bad names, I guess.
And I don't think anybody could or would. But it was so fun meeting Sam Vanderhaar, our punter, and then meeting Will Farron and expecting, I think he's coming here next or in the next couple of weeks. But these guys just love you. And so I know that for a football player to love a coach like that, you've got to have almost not two personalities, but you've got to be really strong in the discipline and what you expect from them. So they become a unified team and they work hard toward it. But then you also have to, they have to be able to trust you and know you and like you despite your, I don't know if you're a militaristic guy or what, but why do these young men on this football team think so highly of Coach Pop? And it's obvious they respect you a ton, but they also love you.
Well, I would say number one, it's because they're good kids. I think I learned this from Bronco a long time ago. He said, you have a choice in this recruiting process. You can pick whoever you want. Pick people that you like. And so
you're talking about as far as players.
Yes. Pick people you like as a person. Don't even worry about, as the player, right? You're going to coach some guys that are going to be very talented. And maybe sometimes you might have to, say that, okay, I'm going to pick more of the talent than the personality. But he gave I think really good advice a long time ago to say your job is going to be a lot easier if you can find a talented guy, but also a guy that you like and that you can mesh with. And so he just always had that saying. He's like, it's your problem if you pick somebody that you don't like or you don't mesh well with or whatever. And so it's just, Bronco always had some really wise things like that. And that was something I learned a long time ago. And so I just, I look to these kids, Sam and Will and Garrison Grimes that just transferred in. That's an exceptional long snapper. His dad's Jeff Grimes, the offensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. So he transferred in. He's with us in the spring. So those guys are all great humans. They're all.
Now, Jeff Grimes is at Baylor right now.
He was at Baylor. Then he was at Kansas. Now he's at Wisconsin as the offensive coordinator. So, yeah. So
his son's coming here.
So his son played 3 years at Baylor, started there as one of the best long snappers in the country, and is now going to play his senior year with us.
Whoa.
And so what all those guys have in common, and I'd say the same thing with our defensive ends, is that we try to recruit high character guys that fit the BYU brand. And when that happens, it makes it easy to coach. And so for me, I don't think it has much to do with me, because I do think I try to say that if you had to put a stamp on like what type of coach I am, it would be a player's coach, but a player's coach that really holds their guys accountable. Like that's what I want to do, is I want to hold our guys accountable at a high level. And I think players appreciate that. They want to be told the truth. And so part of the love and learn that Kalani preaches is loving your guys. I think people get it skewed at times that loving is always, hey, everything's okay.
Soft.
And soft. It's not that. True love, in my opinion, is speaking truth. And when people speak truth, and they can tell that you're coming from your heart, I think they find out, oh, this guy really does care about me. He wants to get me better. So if you're always telling them, hey, everything's great, you're doing awesome, everything's fine, and you don't point out the little details of how to get them better, a great player doesn't appreciate that. A great player wants to know how they can get better right now. And so I try to speak truth. I try to tell them how it is, but at the same time, love them up, take care of them, have them over for dinner at our home, have them around my family as much as I can, try to just build that bond. Like tomorrow, for example, as a specialist group, we're going golfing up at, is it Red Ledges up there in Hebrew?
Oh, my heavens.
Yeah. So
I lived there until we moved here. That's not an easy golf course.
Yeah.
Gil.
So I've heard.
Golfer?
No. So I've heard. So Matthias Dunn, who's one of our kickers, his dad's, has a connection to us up there. And so anyway, he's got us hooked up. So anyway,
you have chosen a difficult path.
That's what I've been told. So that's why we're doing the 4-man scramble, just to keep it simple. Yeah. But it's just things like that.
One of the most beautiful golf courses. No,
but things
I'm sorry I'm interrupting.
Yeah, no, but just
awesome.
Little things like that, just to keep the group connected, and to keep that bond. Because especially as a special teams unit, if the snapper and the punter aren't connected, there's issues.
Right.
If the snapper, the holder, and the kicker aren't connected, there's issues, right? So to be able to bond those guys as much as we possibly can, and keep a really good, tight-knit group that loves and cares for each other, you're going to have a successful special teams crew.
There's so many directions I want to go with you. Ask questions.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
As a fan, as someone who feels like he's a little bit on the inside because I'm close to the organization, but still on the outside. Let's talk about the tension. I want to go straight to the tension that sometimes in old football tradition there was between special teams, offense, and defense. Yeah. And let me share a thought.
Okay.
Have you ever met Gary Zahner?
Gary Zahner, I have not met him, but I've heard a lot about him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gary Zahner was one of the most unique coaches we ever had at BYU. He transferred here from Wisconsin, and I attribute some of his unbelievable play calling and really not play calling, but preparation for some of the biggest wins BYU ever had. When you consider our Texas A&M game, our SMU game back in 1979, this is before you were born, but we won some huge games back then. And those two games were won primarily because we blocked some punts and we had some onside kicks that worked really well. Yep. But I remember Gary Zahner comes in, and an outsider to the BYU culture, to Utah culture, and yet a very gregarious and enjoyable coach. He would build us up as special teams players, and it was then mostly second and third team guys who were playing on special teams. Long story short, there was a time, we were getting T-shirts. The funniest one, maybe we'll have to edit this out, but Gary prepared a shirt for the wives of the special teams. Back then a lot of the players were married, and I'm sure some are now too. Oh yeah. And he prepared a shirt, and it said, "My husband does it on special teams," and it flew. And he unified not only the players but also our spouses. We got a lot of stickers for our helmets. Yeah. And I remember Kyle Whittingham being frustrated that some of us on special teams maybe had more stickers than, a starting middle linebacker.
Yeah.
And he even said to his dad, "Why is that?" And there was some tension between Gary Zahner and some of these coaches. Somehow Coach Lavelle Edwards handled it. How do you handle that tension when the offense and the defense maybe don't want to give a player up?
Yeah.
When you maybe want to do something more aggressive that might be risky for the offense or the defense. Yeah. How do you handle that? I'm sorry I'm talking to
you. No, it's good. Is there
still that tension?
I've felt that throughout my career at every place I've been at, right? There's always this tension of, oh, you can't use this guy on special teams. He's getting too many reps on offense or defense, or, hey, this guy's a little banged up, or whatever it may be. It seems like there's always excuses. The thing that I've loved about being here is Jay Hill has a major background with special teams. Really? And so he was the special teams coordinator at Utah for a long time. When he went to Weber State, he was heavily involved in his special teams. And so he's been very successful his time at Utah and his time at Weber State. He does some very creative things. And so being able to learn from him and be able to have his backing going in, when he meets with Kalani and with A-Rod, he always has special teams on his mind because he knows how hard it is for you special teams.
Back.
Oh, yeah. And I really appreciate that. And without him, I don't think I probably have maybe the time that I would need. And that's just typical. A guy that's never been involved they just don't know, right? That's so right. If I was ever in a position Jay's in, or if I ever became a head coach, I know what I would do being able to help put special teams as an emphasis. And so Jay's helped me do a great job of that, to be able to have enough time. And so what we've done as far as tension, I wouldn't say there's tension. What I would say is that I really sell to the team. There's two things that I sell really hard. Complementary football. Okay. So what is complementary football? Complementary football is special teams is there to complement the offense and to complement the defense. So if you want to be really good on offense, well, let's get great field position by special teams to help that out. You want to be really good on defense? Well, let's have a great punt team where we can pin the ball inside the 20 and now you have, 80 yards plus to defend. So if you want to be really good at those two things, then you better be great at special teams. And so when the team starts to buy into that, and then now you have Isaiah Glasker, who's on our starting punt team and one of the best players on our defense, is like, yeah, I want to run down on punt and cover. So now our defense is set up for better field position. Or you have a guy like Parker Kingston who says, yeah, put me back as the punt returner. I want to set our offense up with great field position, right? So it's just getting the right guys bought in. And it doesn't need to be everybody. I'll probably refer to Bronco a lot, but Bronco always used to say, you don't need to have the whole team bought in. All it takes is 5 to 10%. And if you get the right 5 to 10% bought in, everybody else will come. And so that's been my goal, is to get the right 5 to 10% of guys. So the Tanner Waltz, the Talon Alfreys, the Isaiah Glaskers, the Tyler Batties from last year, right? Tyler was major bought into the system. And so you get all these guys bought in offensively and defensively, and then that makes a great special teams unit right there. So it's really that complementary talk of how we can complement it. And then the other thing I use a lot is, guys, this is the one time in the game where offense and defense can be on the field at the same time. So I'll always tell a receiver, hey, when's another time you can run down on kickoff with a DB that you're always going against in practice? Yeah, you're always going one-on-one against in practice. Now you two can run down on kickoff, fly down, and make a play inside the 20-yard line, right? So last year, Cody Hagan became one of our best special teams players. He was going to be a phenomenal receiver for us. But he bought into that. He's flying down, making plays on kickoff, making plays on punt, making huge blocks on punt return and kickoff return. And so you get these guys bought into being like, hey, I got my brother next to me that I'm usually battling with in practice. Now I got him next to me. So it's the one time in a game where offense and defense come together and can be on the field at the same time and battle together for that specific play.
I remember racing Tom Holmoe down the field. All right, who's going to win this one, Tom? And it's just that good brotherly competitiveness too.
Yeah.
I mean, when Isaiah Glasker or these at Tanner Wall, when those guys choose to be on your special teams, the rest of the team will tend to follow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's fun. Like I just felt like we had a crew last year. Ethan Slade was another one that just really cared deeply about special teams. And he was a starter for the years previous before we got here. And then we show up and he ends up becoming more of a role player and then finds this huge role on special teams. But he was bought in and he wanted to be on everything. And he would come to me and be mad if he was second string and be like, what do I got to do to be the starter? And I'd say, hey, this is, what you got to do to beat this guy out. And he would do it. And those are the guys that I appreciate, the guys that really care and come meet with me, that show that they really, want to be on special teams to help our team.
And the fact that the rest of the coaching staff, maybe just having the back or Jay Hill having your back, but that you have time carved out in preparation so that you can get these things set up and the guys are ready.
Yeah. And it's fun. Yeah.
For example, when Sam Vanderhaar talked about that famous fake field goal that you had against UCF, it sounded like you had to put some time into that.
Oh yeah. So that was a Jay Hill deal right there that Jay had done at Weber. And he had shown it to me about a year ago. And so we just knew. And then
why can't you just go like this?
And then when people give us certain looks, they certain things open up. So we got there's a bunch of things that we have that we've practiced, but every team every week's different based upon the look that they give us. And so Central Florida gave us a specific look that we like that fake against, and so we had practiced it probably 2 or 3 weeks earlier against another opponent. I can't remember who it was that was giving us the same look. And then when that look came up in my early prep, early in the week, Monday morning is when I get there, and really early in the morning, most people don't, and I'm not trying to brag about myself, but Monday mornings, because we don't work Sundays, are 4 a.m. So I'm there at 4 a.m. going through special teams.
No, you have to.
Because we meet as a defense at 6 on Mondays to go over the game. And so I got to get all my special team stuff done before that. So I remember I'm early prepping on Monday of the Central Florida game, and I'm like, oh boy, it's going to be there. We called that fake MJ, by the way. So
why?
No idea. I don't know why. I think all of my fakes,
Michael Jordan.
It has to do with that. All of my fakes have to do with on field goal have different basketball players. So one's called LeBron, one's called Shaq. We have all these different ones, and there's reasons behind it. There's a rhyme and reason, but I'm not going to get into the specifics of that. But don't want to give my secrets away. But
if someone calls the audible MJ,
yeah, exactly.
Now we know. Okay,
but yeah, we got the look we wanted, and like Sam probably explained, the first couple of times we did it, there was 2 or 3 days where I was like, "There's no way in heck we're getting this done. No way."
Sam said, "Just because I'm an Aussie doesn't because I guess." Jay had an Aussie that could effectively run that play. So, okay, you can too.
Yeah. So we just, we spent time on it over and over again. And, those guys, when defense is practicing, they have nothing else to do. So they're over there just practicing it while I'm coaching the D ends up, and they'd come to me and be like, oh yeah, coach, we got this down. We got it down. So I remember it's probably the week before, I think Sam and Will came to me and they're like, coach, if we get that look again, we're going to get it. We got it. And I was like, okay, we'll see if somebody gives us a look. And then sure enough, we get the look versus Central Florida. And it was, I thought Kalani, it was aggressive, it was early in the game, and, we were in position to kick a long field goal. I think we were like 50-yarder where Will had been consistent. And then we get the fake. And the thing about it is, it was like 4th and long. So most teams are not expecting, I think it was 4th and 8, if I remember right. Most teams are not expecting a fake in that situation. And so anyway, everything just kind of, fell into place, and they executed well. And there was a pass option on that actually Ethan Erickson was wide open.
Saw that.
If Will would have
caught it.
Oh yeah, he could have thrown it. Now, Will had a tendency to put a little too much air under it. So that was my worries. If he put too much air under it, the guy would then catch up and get it. But anyway, he ran for it, and the whole thing, he told me the whole time he was thinking, don't get hit. Ran out of bounds.
You could tell he didn't want to get that.
So, but it's just, great job by those guys just executing and being excited to do it.
And as a fan, it was so fun. You add enjoyment to the game. Yeah. Question, how many, what % of the game are special teams on the field?
Yeah, so great question. So so typically it's about 20% of the game. So everybody always says, hey, it's a third of the game. And I'm like, yeah, really, it's 20%. And so how we divide up practice is very similar. So 20% of our practice is typically just special teams. There might be a little higher one day or a little lower another day, but for the most part, we get 20% of practice just because we get 20% of the game. And that's another thing I use too, as well, by the way, just going back to setting up a culture of special teams is so I did this a long time ago when I was at the University of Virginia. There's an average of 30 special teams plays a game, 30, that's it. And so I just tell them, you got to realize you got 30 opportunities to take advantage of the other team in this. And so I sell that really hard. And sometimes it's 20. Sometimes I think there was one game this year we had 22 special teams plays. That was
really,
and it just depends on the flow of the game, how it all flows. But and then I think there was another game that we had like almost in the 40. So anyway, it's just you got 30 opportunities. That's it. So what are we going to do in those 30 opportunities to make an impact? Play that complementary football, set up our offense with great field position, set up the defense with great field position, and then get that buy-in from the whole team. So,
all right. I'm very curious about defensive ends. But I have one more question. No, let's go to the defensive ends. Because we have some tackles coming in. Keanu Tanavasa and Kirtland. What's his name?
Justin Kirtland. Yeah.
Justin Kirtland from Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Some obviously phenomenal talent. We're losing Tyler Batty. Mm-hmm. How are we doing on D end?
Yeah, D end.
I mean, critical position.
Yeah, D end. I feel very, very good. It's a talented group, really talented group, really deep and talented group. But they're all about the same. They're very inexperienced. Really, Logan Latui's coming back. He's about the only guy that's played. You got Bodie Schoonover that played a little bit last year, and then Vil Pouha, Sione's son, our D tackles coach's son, and those guys are they're all very talented. But then there's some young talent coming in. A transfer from Texas, Talcelia Akana had a good spring.
It's a big deal.
Orion Miley Kafusi, who transferred, who redshirted last year, that I think is going to be a very good player for us. He's got that Kafusi name. That name's been
That's
good.
right.
Good for BYU.
Defensive lineman.
And so Nusi Tamupeu is another kid that's a kid I'm counting on from Westlake High School that we got late, that signed with Stanford. Stanford coach ended up getting fired. I don't know if you heard this whole story about 2 months ago.
No.
So then all those recruits got released. And anyway, we ended up with him, but he's from Westlake. He was my number one recruit and chose Stanford over us. But it all ended up working out. But he is going to be an early impact guy. He is a special player.
But he's a true freshman coming in.
He'll be a true freshman. And then
tell me size.
Yeah, so these guys are
this kid from Westlake.
Yeah, they're 6'3", 6'3", 230 to 250. So we really have two different types of ends. So Tyler Batty was what we call the bull. He was a big end. Those guys are, I like those guys to be 6'4" to 6'6", 270, 280 pounds, right where Batty was at. Then the other guys, what we call our open end. Our open end is more of that true rush.
Runners.
They're more of our true rush end.
Right.
Yeah. So Isaiah Bagna played that last year. Logan Latui. That would be the position like Kyle Van Noy played back in the day. So,
really?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, back then, the D end is a special place. In high school, I played defensive end. I was a halfback and a defensive end. I was a sprinter in high school, so these defensive ends are critical, especially in the Big 12, because they've got to run. Yep. Now, maybe Tyler Batty being your bull end, he doesn't have to run a 4.6 or a 4.5, but these other guys might, And so,
for sure. And
hold that edge.
Yeah. So if you look back, players that have played this position before, so the defense that we have now is actually very similar to the defense I coached in before with Bronco. Just things are called a little bit different, but very similar type of concepts. So, the position Kyle Van Noy played, Spencer Hadley played that position. Fred Warner played that position at times. But now that's, Hunter Clegg is a kid that we just got transferred from Utah. He signed with Utah at a high school, went on his mission, came to us. He's another one I'm very, very high on. And so I just feel like we have a very, very talented group, but the group is young. And there might be some bumps and robes along the way, but it is talented, and I think we should be more effective pass rushers than we've been the last 2 years. These guys fit the scheme more than the players that we inherited. And so the past 2 years, it was more of kind of taking the pieces that we had here and kind of plugging them into the defense we have. The players that we have now this year, I think this is the first year 3, where everybody in our system,
they fit
are guys that we recruited to the system that fit the system. And so I'm anxious to see how that all plays out.
And what's fun, to think about it, it's fun that you're going to be bringing these guys along, and they've got great linebackers and great interior linemen to eat up a lot of that stuff. So there's time. Yeah.
No, it should be great. Like bringing that.
I'm looking forward to this.
We're very experienced at D tackle now with the 2 transfers. Very experienced at the the linebacker position. And then our safety position, we feel good about too as well.
True.
And so really it's really the DN spot where it's a challenge that I bring to these guys every day. Hey, the defense is really going to go as you guys go, right? So the faster you guys pick up on things, the more plays you guys start to make, the more assignment sound you guys are, the better this defense is going to be, and we have a chance to be a great defense. But that just all depends upon how the DNs play.
All right. Now, I hesitate to ask you this question, but there was a game back in 1980, our first game of the season, we played against New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And New Mexico had a coach named Joe Lee Dunn.
Joe Lee Dunn.
Have you heard that name?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Good.
Yes.
Good. Okay, perfect. Because, you can look at the metamorphosis of our offense. And I think that Doug Scoville and Bill Walsh and others were creators of an offense that obviously has changed over time, but was unbelievable for the time it came out. But Joe Lee Dunn, and then who was the head coach at New Mexico when Bronco was
Rocky Long.
Rocky Long.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to me, this is the history of this aggressive, I'm going to say risk taking, but you know better than I. But an aggressive defense. We were stunned with New Mexico and all their stunting, and our offensive line wasn't prepared because Roger French came in 2 weeks late on fall ball, so we didn't have all our stunt protection in. And so New Mexico beat us. It was our one loss.
Oh, wow.
In the year of 1980.
I didn't know that. Wow.
And that was the year that we beat SMU.
Wow.
And we shouldn't have lost. It was one of those things like head scratcher like Kansas.
Yeah, wow.
So it's fun to look at your defenses. I wish as a defensive player I could have played for you and Rocky and Bronco. Tell us about the history or maybe how this defense has developed. Is it as risky as sometimes it looks like, or are you controlling that risk?
Yeah, so it's pretty controlled. So like Joe Lee Dunn is the kind of the inventor of the 3-3-5 defense, right? So 3 down linemen, 3 linebackers, 5 DBs. And so
you call that nickel?
No, we call it a little bit different. We have a name. I don't know if I can give you the name. It's a secret name.
No, I don't want. No. All I'm saying is, when people talk about he's our nickel back.
Yeah. So we actually have probably we have our base defense that has 4 D linemen in it, 3 linebackers, 4 DBs. Then we have our nickel package. That's 4 D linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 DBs.
Okay.
And then there's
but the 3-3-5.
The 3-3-5 is a different package, and we played that a lot last year. It was one of our top things that we played.
Is that more like in my day in high school, it was called the Okie defense.
Yeah, similar. I would say similar. Some people
5-man front. Then
some people use that like as 3-4. That's like 3-4 talk.
Okay.
Is more Okie. 3-3-5 is very unique. Joe Lee Dunn started it. Yeah, it's very unique. Rocky Long learned from him. Bronco learned from Rocky. And then I think Jay over the years took this 3-3-5 package that they had at Utah that I think, Kyle had learned a little bit from, just playing against Rocky all those years in the Mountain West. I don't know the exactness of how that all developed with Kyle, but I'm guessing there was a little bit of that because there's some similarities. But the defense, what it's good for, the 3-3-5 is very good for spread offenses. So if you looked at how we played against Colorado, that defense is the worst thing that Colorado wanted to see, and it showed in that game.
I was there, brother. That was fun.
And because of just the adjustments that you can do with 5 DBs, when you have that 5 DBs and teams want to spread out, it's a lot easier to adjust with DBs rather than linebackers or linemen. So when teams spread you out, that's typically what we like to be in. Now we'll do some other stuff too as well, and I would say that's pretty common for most teams in college football right now. That's where they're going to that look. So, but it gives a ton of looks. And if you look at that game, we gave, I think in the first 20 plays, I think somebody gave me this stat. We ran 13 different looks to Shedeur Sanders. So in that defense, in the first 20 plays, he saw 13 different things. And I don't know if people have seen that clip of him on the sideline with Travis Hunter, and they're looking at the iPad and they're like, he's like, I don't know what they're doing. I can't read what they're doing pre-snap. And our safeties and our DBs do a really good job of disguising the coverages, disguising the blitzes and pressures. And that caused confusion the whole game for him. And thus we ended up with, 4 sacks and those interceptions and 14 points was the most important. And so, but yeah, that's kind of the basis of that defense.
Well, and thank you. We don't need to go into detail too much, but that's fascinating to see how defenses have changed and that Colorado game was amazing.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Just a sidelight that I mentioned before on the podcast, but I met with Tyler Batty last year. And this was before the season. I went to that 100 years of BYU football, met him. Hey, you got to come on. And he said, yeah, I've got this goal. And a pretty high goal of sacks that he had.
Yeah.
But the way you ran your defense was not going to give him as many sacks as a traditional, down defensive end that gets to rush every time. He had 2 interceptions by others, know. So you guys switch it up. I'm glad I'm not a quarterback running against you.
Yeah, and those guys, and Batty wasn't the most he didn't fit the system at D end as much as some of these other guys. So we were dropping Batty into coverage. Probably shouldn't have as much as he did, but it was just, what we felt like we had to do to be able to, help our team succeed. And so I think he, loved it and ended up, like you said, with 2 interceptions.
And I've met him since, and you didn't meet that goal, but you sure accomplished so. And as a team.
Yeah. And Batty he did get a ton of pressures on the season, which led to our team getting interceptions. So it's like
other guys getting sacks.
Yeah. So it's like, what would you rather have? I always would tell people this. Would you rather have a sack where they end up getting the ball back and then, punting it, or would you rather get a pressure on the quarterback? The quarterback throws it, and now we lead the country in interceptions. Cool. So what a lot of people don't realize about our defense last year is we didn't have a ton of sacks. I think we ended up with 19 on the year, but we had some of the most highest number of pressures in the country. Batty was, I think, number 4, number 5 in all the Big 12 in quarterback pressures. And those all led to, having one of the best defensive backfields in the country with the stats that we had with, the most interception. We led the whole country in interceptions, which I think a lot has to deal with the confusion on the back end, but also the pressure the quarterback was getting. So,
how long were you in Charlottesville? At University of Virginia.
Yeah, so we were there for 6 years. Yep. So when we left here, so I coached here for 7 years with Bronco, played here for him, and then I was here. Well, I had a little stint in the NFL, so I was gone for about a year and a half. So then in the season 2009 is when I started coaching. 2015 was our last year here with Bronco, then went to Virginia 2016 through 2021. And it was an amazing experience and learned a ton from that university and that community and the players that we had out there. It was a fun experience. The bond that we made with our players there was just something special. Taking a program that had not been to a bowl game in 7 years and then being able to do some of the coolest things that the Virginia football had done in the history of Virginia football, playing for an ACC championship.
The turnaround you made was amazing.
It was fun. Playing in the Orange Bowl. And I mean, it's some cool stuff. And I look back at those times and the things that I learned, and now being able to apply those things to my time back here at BYU, it goes back to that, mantra that BYU has. I forget what it is. Come to learn.
For it. Yeah.
Come to learn
forth to serve.
Or go forth to serve, whatever it is. And that's what it was. And then now being able to learn from those people.
Enter to learn, go forth to serve.
There you go. There you go. And that's what happened. I learned a ton at BYU, went out there to serve, outside. I was gone for 7 years, another year at Boise State. But I learned a ton along the way that then helped me bring stuff back here that I think are helping our players and our program in the situation we're in right now.
Well, you bring up something that's really interesting to me. As a fan, when you see a coach come in or a coach go out, when you see a player come in or a player go out, we all ask, why? What's going on? And in the world of business, I worked for 3 different companies during my career. Mm-hmm. I was a portfolio manager, and I love Morgan Stanley. I love Merrill Lynch. Yeah. I love the Edward Jones that I worked for a period of time. And each of them gave me opportunities, and I hope I gave opportunities to the people I served. But the average fan is going to ask, what about loyalty?
Yeah.
So tell me what you think, because obviously you're loyal to what you're doing, and sometimes you have to go. It felt like Bronco, it was the right time for him to go build a new program up, because to me, he's a real good guy for turning around programs, you and your staff. So I'm not questioning loyalty. Yeah. I'm just saying, how do you work with that?
Yeah,
I'm curious.
It's a great question. In college football, very, very unique to be at a place more than 4 or 5 years. Very unique. And so I was lucky. I was 7 years at the beginning of my career with Bronco, and then another 6 years at Virginia. And then I go to Boise State for a year. And then that's when my wife was like, oh, this is what real college football coaching is like when you're Virginia, Boise State, BYU. That's 3 years, 3 different schools. And that was really, really hard.
That's hard, especially when you have 4 children.
Yeah. 4 kids, 4 little girls moving around the country, we do a big long trip from BYU to Virginia, and then Virginia back to Boise, and then Boise back to here. And so, but along the way, you learn a ton.
You do.
And my family grew and developed.
And you bring things back to the systems that you serve in.
And so going back to the loyalty part, in college football, and I would say BYU fans are probably at the one end of the spectrum on this. The expectations are extremely high.
They are.
Right? So as a coach, you can't work.
Or maybe skewed.
Yeah. I think both of those. But you got to understand that as a coach, and you can't take anything personal. And at the same time, you got to understand too, the head coach controls everything. As far as at any point he could say, like Bronco, hey, I'm ready to go to Virginia. Or when he was at Virginia, he said, hey, you know what? I'm going to step down. I'm going to take a couple years off. So at any point, Kalani could do that. I don't know, but I hope he doesn't. I want to be here a long time. But at the same time, other opportunities come as well where you want to grow and develop as a coach and as a person, and you want your family to grow and develop too as well. And so that was part of our decision as a family to leave, to go with Bronco. Was we were like, we need to grow, develop, get a little uncomfortable, be in a new area, and see what we can give, and it was a really good experience. And so, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. Hopefully a long time. My wife always says, get our kids graduated and then we can go somewhere else.
And as a fan, please stay.
Yeah.
We need you. Do we have NIL for coaches?
Yeah. But it's always more every coach says that it's always more special to coach for your alma mater. Right. So it's just something different. You just feel like you can give just a little bit more. And so, this is, my heart, even though I was out in Virginia, I was working really hard. My heart was always, back here in Provo being like, oh man, maybe one day I'll be able to get back there, which I didn't think I'd ever, to be honest with you. I just didn't know that opportunity would ever come. I really didn't know Kalani well. And I didn't know, what was going to happen with the program in the future. And so, I'm at Boise State, and Kalani decides to make some defensive changes. And that's where I had the opportunity to come back. And I had stayed connected with him over the years and just talking and texting. And so, I think that helped a little bit. And then just being, I had some success at Virginia, and then we were having success at Boise State. So I think that helps as well, right?
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to hire anybody that's doing a bad job. So it's just always doing great at the job you currently have can help you for jobs in the future. But I would say to fans about the loyalty part is, for coaches, I think there's a shelf life for everybody, right? And a lot of times you want to stay ahead of the shelf life, right? Before expiration happens, you want to get on to the next thing. And people might say that's, that's kind of unfair, or that's, they're not all the way in. It's just the way that college football is. And so it's just trying to stay ahead of that. But right now I feel like Kalani has the program in a place where all of us are super happy. Obviously going 11-2, that helps, but the record, Kalani always brings us up. The wins and losses isn't what matters most. It's where the direction of the program is going. Are we doing the right thing academically? Are our guys graduating with the right GPAs? Are we doing the right things off the field with community service and making sure our guys aren't in bad limelight? Like, just making sure that they're making good decisions. And so I bought in, and the rest of the coaching staff's bought in with the way that Kalani's doing it and the culture that he has. And so when that happens, you typically are like, man, I want to stay here as long as I can. And so, we'll see how long that goes. And our staff's super united. That's the other thing.
I see that.
Sometimes you get on staffs where, this guy's like, oh, I'm not bought into this, or this guy's not bought into that. And that's hard when there's now starts to be friction, especially when it's going against the head coach. But right now I feel like we're super unified, and that's fun. That's a fun environment to go work in every day. You're excited to go to work every single day.
I feel that among the players too.
Yeah.
You can feel that there's a united front. And to defend what you're saying in the corporate world, in academia, we send our people out so that, we don't all become inbred in the way we do this, so that the Joe Lee Dunns and the Rocky Longs and the Bronco Mendenhalls and the Bill Walshes and the Doug Scovilles, that we have touches with them to understand how things are growing. If now Lavelle Edwards was here for a long time, but he was the head coach. And he had people underneath him transferring all the time. Doug Scoville left, and then he came back. And that happened, I think, with some other coaches. So there's nothing wrong. In fact, there's something very healthy when we spread our wings and go out and learn. So, but I, as a fan, say, Kelly, we need to keep you here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm with a lot of the other coaches.
My wife would say the same thing, just so you know, she would say, you know, because every year coaches call I have an agent and people call the agent,
Sure.
and, you know, gauge interest in certain things. And she'd be like, yeah, you can go. We're not going anywhere. So go ahead. You can go do whatever you want, but we're staying right here. So yeah, that's, you know, that's where my wife's mindset is right now. So she's wanting to get our kids through high school, but at the same time, we know the reality of college football, things change fast. And so we want to do a great job this season. That's our number one goal right now. And
I am so excited about this season. You know, and what you've told me now about these defensive ends, these young guys coming up, I even more excited. Kelly, I'm keeping you here a long time.
You're good.
You transferred here from USU.
Uh-huh.
How hard was that?
That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. Right.
Really?
So,
because you're from Wyoming.
Yeah. So I'm from Wyoming.
And Utah State's a little bit closer.
Yeah. So I grew up a huge BYU fan. So my dad played here, late 60s, early 70s, right before Lavelle got here. And so we grew up huge BYU fans. So my brother Brady and I, and then I have another brother, Casey, that played at Utah State and played the NFL as well. But yeah, this is where we all wanted to be. And, you know, they asked Casey, my older brother, to walk on here. He ended up playing at Wyoming and then played at Utah State. When he got home from his mission, he transferred from Wyoming to Utah State because Wyoming had taken tight ends out of their offense. It was kind of this first ever.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, it's kind of a unique deal. But back in the day,
that's interesting.
Yeah. Back in the day, transferring was very, very rare. So my story goes, I go to Utah State. I'm there. I go on my mission right out of high school.
And you went to Ecuador.
I went to Ecuador, which was awesome. Great experience.
Speak. Todavía habla un poco del español.
Un poco. Tengo que practicar más. But yeah, it was fun. It was a great experience. I loved it. And then when I got home, I went to Utah State. BYU had asked me to walk on, and I was so mad. I was just like, because I remember the guys that they had offered. And
I'm better than
I remember going to camp and being like, I'm just as good as these guys. And yeah, anyway, it was frustrating. And Brady had signed here too. So Brady had signed to BYU. He was on his mission when this was all going down. So then anyway, I get home from my mission. I go to Utah State. I played 2 years there. My first year, kind of just special teams backup. My second year ended up starting and being one of the top tacklers on the team. Well, the head coach, McDenhall, gets fired at the end of the year. This is 2003. 2004. The same year Gary Crone got fired here. And so Brady had just got done playing, and Brady just said, hey, whatever you do, you got to play for this guy named Bronco Mendenhall.
Oh.
And so he said, hey, Bronco's, might be the head coach here at BYU. I know he was being looked at as the head coach at a couple other places as well. And he said, wherever he goes, you need to play well for him, even if it's not BYU. And I was like, okay,
I respect that.
And so I remember going in and meeting with the new coach at Utah State. And I had made great friends there.
You already had roots.
Yeah.
Right?
Great friends, great roommates. I mean, it was
beyond the football team. I mean, on campus, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was awesome.
Right.
And I was liking Logan, and I had just met my wife. So we had just started dating.
And
so this is like,
she was at school too.
She was at Utah. She ran cross country and track up there. And so we had just started dating. This was so we started dating in September. So now we're in late November when this is all going to.
For one deal, did she come run here too?
She ran at UVU.
Okay.
Yeah, she ended up running at UVU and having a really good career there. And so anyway, we get to November and all this is going down. And I remember meeting with the new head coach at Utah State, and I remember sitting down with him and being like, walking out of that meeting like, this is not going to go well. Like, just the things that he presented to me, I did not have a good feeling about it. So I remember calling my dad and talking through it, and he just said, hey, if you transfer, you're going to have to sit out a year no matter what. You're going to have to redshirt.
It's hard.
And that was the
rule. It's not the same.
Yeah, that was the rule back then. And the communication with other coaches was extremely hard. And like the tampering back then was like, it was really serious. Like coaches were suspended. Like it was very, very rare for anything to happen. Luckily for me, Brady was here when Bronco got hired, and that kind of helped me get in easy with Bronco, was through the communication with Brady, going to Bronco and being like, hey, my brother is going to be transferring. Would you guys be interested? And so anyway, that kind of helped that whole process. And so when Bronco became the head coach, then I was able to finally communicate with him and talk with him. And then he just said, yeah, if you want to come, we have a spot for you down here to play linebacker. And so then I had to go to my wife at the time, or my girlfriend at the time, who becomes my wife, and tell her, hey, we've been dating.
That'd be hard for her.
Been dating about 3 months. And I told her, hey, I'm going to transfer to BYU. And
although the track season's a little bit warmer here.
Yeah. But she just, I remember telling her, we sat down in her apartment. I told her, and
how'd she handle it?
She just started laughing, and she just is like, okay, let's do it.
Really?
And then just like that, she was going to transfer.
It wasn't hard for her then.
Not hard at all. She was.
How long did it take you to transition to feel like the roots were coming down here in Provo?
So I leave in November, leave at the end of the semester in December, and 2 weeks later, I'm here in January.
You're here,
and we're going.
And you're loving it from the beginning.
And it took a while. I mean, I think the thing that made it easier for me, the transition, was that the new head coach, having Bronco, it was new for everybody, right?
It was a brand
everybody
new
everybody was on the same level, and he had some experience with some of the defensive players, but I just remember coming in and all the offensive players were scared to death of him. They didn't, because they didn't know him as well as the defensive players. But
and he has an austere presence,
Oh yeah, and so that whole experience.
He wasn't Gary Croton.
No,
I mean personality.
Yeah, he's a way different personality, and the way he does things is different. And he has a. I always tell people he has a method behind the madness right there. It looks like a bunch of crazy stuff going on, but
sometimes I wonder.
Yeah, but it works, and everywhere he's gone, it's worked, which is pretty impressive. And so,
agreed.
So anyway, it just going through that transition was hard at first, but when I got the feel of how things were ran, then I felt like I fit in to the culture Bronco had really, really well. I tried to be a tough guy. I tried to work hard, give extreme effort. Be detailed, be accountable, discipline, effort, all those things that he always preached. And I felt like that was me. And I was like, when I started hearing these team meetings and these messages, I felt like, oh yeah, this is going to go really well. And then just the hardest thing was sitting out that whole entire year, not being able to play.
Had you already redshirted?
I hadn't redshirted. So that was one of the reasons why I felt like it was okay for me to transfer. So I had played my true freshman year and sophomore year, redshirted that year. So that was 2005, his first year. And then 2006 and 2007 played linebacker. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that was the middle linebacker, one of the middle linebackers.
Yep.
Sweet. What a cool story, Kelly.
Yeah.
I feel like we could talk well, it's morning here, but daily dose. That's funny. The daily dose of K-pop.
The daily dose of K-pop, yeah.
It sounds like you were a locker room, a guy who could generate some enthusiasm.
I tried to bring, especially my senior year, my junior year, Cameron Jensen, John Beck were the leaders. So I kind of just sat back and let them do their thing and learned a lot from those guys.
Wow.
And then knew going into my senior year that leadership was going to be gone. And so myself and a guy named Matt Allen was a great receiver that ended up becoming the team captains. And we had learned a lot from those two guys previously. And so, yeah, I think I was probably a little more of a rah-rah guy than Cam Jensen was. But at the same time, I mean, we go from one of the best defenses in the country in 2006 to even a better defense in 2007. And a lot was because of just the leadership, not just myself, but Ben Criddle. You guys probably know the name Ben Criddle, Markel Staffieri, Brian Keel, David Nixon. There were some great players on that team.
There were some great players.
And so, I think we ended up 9th in the country in total defense that year. And so it was, I had a great experience. My junior and senior year, both going 11-2, both years, winning the Mountain West Conference Championship. I think we had like an 18-game winning streak at home. We hadn't lost at home in 3 years. And so, it was fun. It was
even as fans, we were loving it. I have a question, and we can edit this out if either of us is uncomfortable with it. But you brought up something that I really like. Sam Vanderhaar brought up how he's the antagonist in the locker room, and I think maybe in Aussie language that means he's one of the guys that's pushing in a good way, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like you were that way too. All right. Now, this is a little bit sensitive because in that Arizona State game, and I totally recognize what was going on, but there was somebody from the Arizona State staff or somebody that wanted to undermine BYU.
Mm-hmm.
And so they taped a locker room halftime speech by one of your great players, And on the football field, sometimes things get passionate.
Yeah.
In a locker room, things can get passionate. And if anyone caught me at my worst times or at my most passionate times, I'm not going to say they're the worst, then I might, I don't know, be embarrassed. And so you as a coach, I love Tyler Batty.
Yeah.
And I know he's a good human being.
Yeah.
Some people might judge, oh man, he used some poor language there. And yet, I mean, how do we as fans, as human beings, this human being is different than me. Mm-hmm. We've got a lot of guys coming in from outside the Utah culture or the church's culture. And I love how everybody's coming together and unified, trusting, respectful of one another.
Yeah.
And yet somebody, not denies, but they try to undermine us as groups, as organizations. What are your feelings as a coach about how do you reconcile this? Because, let me just, when I came to BYU, I was recruited by Stanford, or I chose between Stanford, Cal, UCLA, and BYU. Mm-hmm. And there were others. And I saw the locker rooms of all those schools, and I figured BYU would be a little bit different. It wasn't totally different, but these are young men. They're football players. And some are motivated by different methods than others. Yeah. And so as a coach, I know you're trying to bring people along in the right way. How can we as fans say, okay, this is okay, or I'm stepping in it here. I'm in your field in Laramie, and I just stepped in the manure, right?
Yeah, I mean, in that situation right there, I think Tyler was extremely frustrated, and not just him. I think probably our whole program. We're down 21-0 or 21-3 at halftime, and everything was on the line in that game. We have a chance to be, really stay in the hunt to go to the Big 12 championship. And so to be able to play so well throughout the whole entire year and to get to that moment where now we're not playing well at all anywhere, offense, defense, special teams, it was all a disaster. And for him as a leader to step up and do that, I actually was very proud of him. Now, the way that he said it, could have he used better language? Probably. But newsflash to all the Cougar fans out there, people swear. And it happens at times in our program as well. And does that make them a bad person? No. I would say,
thank you.
Yeah. And I would say Tyler, one of the best human beings I've ever been around.
Agreed. And I met his dad, Lane Batty.
Yeah.
These are sweet people.
Yeah.
But not raised in Wyoming, but I mean, working with horses.
Yeah.
And that might make me swear quite a bit too.
And for Tyler to be able to step up as a leader at that moment and to be able to express himself of, hey guys, we got to get it going. And the message that I got, I'm not listening to the swearing. What I'm listening to was, we got 30 minutes to fix this. And guys, we're never going to get this opportunity back again, especially for you seniors. If you go back and listen to it, it was the message of, hey, let's play for these seniors. Let's play for this moment of 30 minutes. Let's put everything on the line. And if we put everything on the line in these next 30 minutes, whatever happens, if we win or lose, we're going to walk off the field and we're going to be okay with it. But if we keep playing like we're playing right now, we're going to walk off the field and we're going to be disappointed.
We're going to be embarrassed.
And that's exactly what we did in that second half. We pulled everything together. Our offense starts scoring points. Our defense start getting stops. I think we gave up one touchdown and we stopped them on a 2-point conversion. So they only had 6 points.
And we had the chance to win that game.
We have a chance, at the end of the game right there, Jake, if Jake, and Jake knows this, but if he just throws that ball just a little bit sooner to JoJo, that's going to be probably a touchdown. But, you live and learn.
Is that the one where JoJo's down the field on the left?
Down on the sideline, yeah.
It almost looks like JoJo didn't see the ball.
Yeah. I'm not an offensive guy. I don't know exactly how it's supposed to happen, but I don't.
But a little bit earlier,
but that moment right there, we're right there, and they couldn't stop us. I mean, there was the second half there where I think we scored on every possession.
That had the makings of a crazy comeback, and it was a great comeback.
And but like I said, I was more proud of Tyler in the way that he led the team in that moment, because a poor leader sits there, doesn't say anything. And I've been on those teams before, and that's hard, where it's like the coaches are trying to rile up the team and get everybody going. A player-led team is a way better team than a coach-led team. And so for Tyler to step up and to do that in that moment and to be able to get the guys fired up and to be able to get them to respond and to come out and play in the second half and do what we did, that was a sign of a great leader. And that's probably what I'm more proud of Tyler than anything over the last 2 years is how he's developed as a leader.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we as fans, we as members of a community, if we can't overlook little things, to me, very little, then we need to look inside a little bit more too.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
If we need to edit that, we will.
No, that's great. No, I don't think that.
I appreciate I appreciate what you're saying. I could talk about playing center field and how coming in on a ball, a fly ball, helps you make the toss, and seeing Parker Kingston line up where the ball looks like it's coming right down on top of him. He made some of the most exciting plays, but sometimes he made like that punt return against, who was that against? Kansas State.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever seen a punt return like that before?
Never. And so, a lot of people don't know that our punt safe team was out there. So it was 4th and short. We actually had our defense on the field. And so we were just wanting
He had to be able to come up.
Yeah. We were just one Parker to catch the ball, fair catch it. And we do have a return that gets set up just in case something like that happens if he does catch it. And our guys executed it at a high level. That's something I'll use for the rest of my career is the way that they executed that punt return. But that went from a moment of, oh no, Parker, I am going to kill you to, oh yes, we're going to score. And then he dropped the ball right as he enters and crossed the line, and they had to review it like he had dropped the ball too soon. So it went from the lowest of lows to the highest of lows back to the lowest and then another high. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But one of the most incredible plays I've ever seen.
Is he that kind of frenetic guy?
Not typically, he's typically pretty consistent guy and does what he's supposed to do.
You gotta love him. He's a very fun player to watch.
Yeah. And he's got some speed. And I think, I think he's got 2 more years. So I'm excited to get him back and just catch the ball. Let's just catch the ball so we don't have to go through the swing of emotions of, potentially muffing a kick or whatever. But I think he's learned from that. And obviously he showed in the Colorado game, gets another touchdown. And then I think he had 3 big returns in that game, one that went for a touchdown. So excited to see him come back.
One last question.
Yeah.
And then I'll let you, finish how you like. But it's so fun to see these young men coming in from many different cultures. I met LaMason Waller and Trey Alexander. Mm-hmm. And young men with tons of schools recruiting them, tons of talent. They're not your typical BYU kids, except for the fact that they're bought into this culture. And they're, when you hear about this AJ DeMonza with the basketball team and how he's coming here to focus on his basketball, and he, if he doesn't have the parties going on all the time, that's okay for him, Yeah. And they almost sounded like it was the same thing. So as a coach who's recruiting, BYU, where it used to be, oh, yeah, you're going to go there and you can't drink, you can't smoke, you can't do all these other things, it almost sounds like it's an asset now. How are we bringing these kids in, and how are they adopting this culture so well?
Yeah. So
I think Bronco did the same thing. But
I in the recruiting pitch to those kids and to every kid, it's even to the LDS kids, is what BYU gives you. It gives you the best chance to not be distracted in the world of college football, right? So I call it sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? That's college football, right? So if you want to, and not saying we're perfect because we got issues here as well, right?
They're 18, 19, 20-year-old young men,
but what I would say is it's minimal compared to other college campuses that I've been on, and I've only been 2 other places, to Boise State and to Virginia, but I hear stories of other places as well. But what I do know is BYU gives you your best chance to stay out of that environment that's outside of football when you're off the field. But you're going to be able to find it if you want.
Sure.
But I think when you get more,
and back in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, you could too.
Yeah. And what it does though, is you get a collaboration of guys that are bought into saying, hey, this is how we want to live. We're going to try our best to do it.
And they're making each other accountable.
Yeah. And it's helped. And I think honestly, that's been the secret sauce for BYU for a long time, is being able to get rid of a lot of the distractions that typically happens off the field. Just really focus on your academics, really focus on being a great football player, being able to focus on being a great person. And so if we can eliminate those distractions, I think it's, for kids that really love football, similar to AJ in basketball. Like that's just what they want to do. They don't care about the partying. They don't care about anything else. They just want to focus on that. I think kids.
And he's got a bunch of social presence too.
Yeah.
And I think these other kids do too.
Yeah. And Trey Alexander, I think has one of the best social presences on our football team right now. And he's an amazing kid to be around. He's a kid I helped recruit out of Atlanta with I recruited Atlanta for a long time when I was out in Virginia. And, but he fits the culture and the vibe of everything. And we love having him around. And
his dad was a coach, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yep. And so we just want good kids. It doesn't matter any walk of life, whatever it is.
I think that's the best.
I mean, look at our team now. Our starting quarterback's a Jew. One of our starting cornerbacks, Maury Bamba, is Muslim, right? We got Catholics on our team. We got non-denominational Christian. I mean, we got every walk of life, and it's because kids
they respect each other.
Yeah.
That's what's so cool.
Yeah, and they just I think see that what BYU gives them is an opportunity to really focus on what they care about a lot, which is being a great football player.
Kelly, you've been really fun to visit with, and I hope we can visit more later. What are your final feelings as we talk on Beyond the Game? What would you like to share with us as far as your feelings about it?
For me, it's, for BYU fans that hear this, just ultimately at the end of the day, like I hope everybody understands that, and we've talked a lot about this throughout this podcast, is that our team cares a lot about football. We want to be great. Our coaches care a lot. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we are sons of God that want to represent him well as best as we can, and we might not be perfect all the time doing that. But
is there any? Well, yeah. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And so I think that's something that Kalani preaches a ton. Bronco used to preach that a lot, all the time. I think anybody that's the head coach at BYU is going to preach that. If like we're going to go out there, we're going to give our best. That's what Heavenly Father wants us to do. That's what he expects of us, is to give us our best. And we might falter along the way, but I think fans always, they get in games and be like, oh my gosh, why did he miss that tackle? Or it's not like we're trying to miss the tackle, or it's not like we're trying to miss the pass or miss the block or whatever. It's, these guys practice extremely hard. I would say Kalani has an extremely great culture of how hard guys practice. It maybe be in a different way that Bronco did. But these guys practice hard. They have a deep passion for being really good football players. And I promise you, there's nobody that cares more than our players, than our coaches and our program to win. Like, we want to win, and we want to win at the highest level. But we're not going to sacrifice that for being a bad person, or we're not going to sacrifice that not doing it the right way. We're going to do it the BYU way. And if that leads to, a Big 12 championship and a chance to play in the college football playoff and win a national championship, then just think about how much light that can bring to the church and to our program and to individuals. And so that's our mission.
And just living life right.
Yeah. And that's our mission. So hopefully we can do that.
Kelly, thank you. Beyond the Game, Kelly Popinga, best of luck. We have the highest of expectations like you do, but still understanding, hey, we're human beings. We're going to make it.
Yeah.
But I think you're making it there this year. You guys have it all set up.
Well, appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for watching another episode of Beyond the Game. Remember to click here to subscribe and click here to watch our recent videos. Also, please follow us on social media. And remember, go Cougs.